Hello world, my name's Joram. Welcome to my review of the Panasonic DMC G7, the newest addition to the Lumix G series. Sporting 4K video, an array of new features, and an entirely redesigned exterior, Panasonic makes sure that the G7 stands out, but is it worthy of all the hype? Let's find out. The G7 shoots video in up to 4K resolution at 24 or 30 frames per second, as well as basic 1080p HD video at up to 60 frames per second. Panasonic brings back its typical 16 megapixel sensor, however, the highest megapixels you'll really be able to get with shooting 16:9 ratio photos is 12 megapixels. This doesn't mean that the images are bad, they're actually really clear, it's just not as high res as some of the competition. You can shoot stills at 7 frames per second and as low as a 60-second shutter speed, which is quite useful for astrophotography. The ISO range is fairly decent, going up to 6400 for video and 25,600 for photos, though why you would need to go that high I have no idea. And although it says it goes as low as 160, I've only been able to get it down to 200. The 3-inch swivel touchscreen makes a comeback and is as good as ever, and the new viewfinder has been updated successfully. Battery life, however, is subpar. I find myself having to charge the battery almost every time I use it. You can shoot video in AVC HD and MP4 format, however, with AVC HD footage you can shoot 4 hours or more depending on your card storage, but with MP4 format you can only shoot 30 minutes or even less. Compared to a Canon or a Nikon, holding the G7 is like holding 2 pieces of paper. This can be good and it can be bad. If you're going for mobility, the G7 will be nice and handy, but if you're trying to use it on a stabilizer where more weight is beneficial, the G7 is not going to perform as well. The exterior is redesigned. Compared to the G6 that favored more soft curves, the G7 favors more sharp angular edges. There are plenty of function buttons that you can customize to your liking all over the camera, however some of them, like this one right here, are not as intuitive to press while shooting. There's a new dial to the left of the viewfinder, making it look a lot more like a GH4, and it allows you to change the photo mode from single shutter, multi-shutter, 4K burst, timer, etc. without having to change it in a menu. The flash button is also easy to access right next to the viewfinder and is helpful for whenever you need it. On the left side you'll find a mic input, and on the right side there's the HDMI out, AV digital out, and remote in. However, the HDMI out only supports playback on other devices, not live viewing. There's also still no headphone jack. The neck strap holders, instead of being embedded on the side of the camera, are now dangling like a pair of earrings, which can be irritating, especially if you don't ever use a neck strap. The SD card is also still on the bottom, which makes it very tough to actually get into, especially when time is of the essence. Overall, the feel of it is fairly nice. It's ergonomic and fits well in your hand, but it does have a plastic feel, despite its metallic appearance. The G7 is available in all black or silver as shown here. There are 3 new 4K photo modes that allow you to shoot 4K video and extract 8 megapixel stills, which can be convenient if you want the best of both worlds, but is clearly aimed more towards an entry-level consumer rather than a professional. Like many Panasonic cameras, it has Wi-Fi functionality, so you can pair your smartphone to the Panasonic Image app and control your G7 remotely, and actually works fairly well. Autofocus has also been improved with 49 points, making it just as good as most DSLRs. There are helpful on-screen features including histogram, adjustable mic levels, and focus peaking, which are essentially little dots that show you exactly where the focus is. While it doesn't always work well, when it does, it makes manual focusing very easy. The 4K video is clearly the G7's selling point, and even when downscaled to 1080p, the amount of detail you get is really quite astonishing. It's the low light, however, where you really start to see the G7 suffer. Even at ISO 800, when there's not enough light, there's going to be a lot of unattractive noise, and that only gets exaggerated when you bump it up. The lasting appeal of the G7 is unparalleled. It does everything its predecessor did right and adds a lot more. If you're new to the Micro Four Thirds system, you can still make the transition fairly easy by getting a cheap adapter that allows you to use basically any type of lens on a Micro Four Thirds body. What you need to be wary of though is the Micro Four Thirds mirrorless system has a 2x crop factor, so your 35mm will turn into a 70mm and your 200mm will turn into a 400mm, and etc. To avoid this, you have to shell out for a Metabones Speedbooster, which keeps your angle of view basically the same and also increases one f-stop. Also, as of right now, there's no option to buy the G7 body alone, you have to get it with the kit lens. However, that's not too bad because the 14 to 42mm lens that comes with it actually gets the job done pretty well. While it's certainly not the sharpest lens around, it's the image stabilization that really makes it shine. The G7 doesn't do everything right, but what it does do right, it knocks out of the park. and is clear evidence that Panasonic is not slowing down. The only camera that comes close is the FZ1000, also from Panasonic, which shoots 4K video. It just doesn't have interchangeable lenses like the G7. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions that I didn't answer, feel free to ask in the comments section below, and I'll answer all that I can. See you next time.